Well, that's a really simple answer, I'm sure. The biggest thing, and I think what probably anyone who's learned anything about the past year, it's about balancing things. Balancing risk is really what it comes down to. And so the practical things that any parent looking at their kid's health, their kid's safety, is balancing the risk of the sport versus the benefit that kid's going to get, right? And so specifically on the risk standpoint, probably the biggest thing that you should be concerned about as a parent is kind of what the community rate of COVID is in the group that your child's going to be playing their sports in. Okay, so that can be your immediate geographic area if they're not traveling for their sports, or if they're going to travel someplace for sports, figure out what's happening over the past couple of weeks at that location, because that's really going to be the biggest thing you can kind of control. The other part, though, and thankfully, everything's kind of heading in the right direction across the country, and certainly here on the West Coast, things are looking a lot better. As the lower that COVID rate gets, just the chance of running into a COVID asymptomatic child, it gets lower and lower. So that's what we're all hoping for. But the things you also want to make sure is happening is, what's the team doing to make their activity safe, right? So again, it's least risky to most risky. And there's some individual sports, tennis and golf, those have been great. People have been doing them all pandemic, super safe. And in general, sports have been very safe. And that's probably the best thing to really kind of to pay attention to. There's not been documented cases of sort of across this scrimmage line or across the goal line contamination of one team to another with COVID. Okay, in outbreaks within teams, in certain sports that are the highest risk. There have been some situations with wrestling and tournaments and hockey, but in general, really one team and one player crossing it to the other team is generally pretty safe, because no matter what sport you're doing, you're only really face-to-face briefly in most sports, okay? And so what we really care about, and the thing, again, you can control somewhat as a parent, and educating your child on this is really important, is what should they be doing when their team's getting together on the sideline? What are they doing in the dugout, on the bench? And a lot of that's really, really critical. So if you're joining an organization, you want to see good structure with that organization. They should be spaced out when they're doing their drills. They should have as much of their own individual equipment as they can. When they are using shared equipment, there should be sort of organized breaks to clean their hands and hand sanitize throughout that process as well. And then really the biggest thing and the hardest thing, because it kind of goes against all the other great things of sports, is what happens when they want to cheer and get together and have that real social part. And the one thing that, we're balancing those things again, but kids are pretty smart. Like, they know how to kind of high five from across the room now, and they know how to sort of fake air hug and everything else. And so I think we're going to find that our kids are going to figure this out almost faster than the parents will. We just got to put them in a safe place, or the safest place we can. And of course, and I just got to give a plug for this, anytime a parent has a chance to get a vaccine, go do it. That's by far the safest thing we can do to really drive down those COVID rates. Eventually, with